Shalom, everyone, and welcome back. This coming Wednesday night is the observance of the very solemn day, the most solemn, saddest day in the Jewish calendar, Tisha B'av, which commemorates the destruction of the holy temples in Jerusalem, as well as many other very tragic events that happened throughout history. On Wednesday night, we're going to be sitting low on the ground as we do as mourners, and we will be reciting the Eicha, the Book of Lamentations. And Eicha begins, Eicha Yashva Badad, how the nation dwells alone, how we are alone. And our sages tell us that the Jewish people are called a nation that dwells alone, because ultimately we really can't count on anyone else besides ourselves. We take a look at the land of Israel, which sits a tiny little nation amidst all kinds of warring, very unstable Arab nations, and Israel is all by itself. In fact, only very few of these nations even recognize Israel. And indeed, the Jewish people throughout history have been a nation that dwells alone, not counting on anyone. From time to time, we've had nations that have been helpful to us and welcomed us. There have been Russia and Poland and Spain and Germany, among others. But ultimately, many of those nations, if not all of them, let us down in the long run. And we were forced to flee and go to other places. In our day, America stands out as the beacon of hope for the land of Israel and for the Jewish people as never before. And we think that this is really the ultimate in graciousness and in kindness that has bestowed the Jewish people. Will this continue? Only history can tell. Who knows? There are other nations as well that are friends to the Jewish people and friends to Israel, like England and France and other parts of Canada, other parts of the Western world. But ultimately, we can't count on anybody. In the old days, in the Middle Ages, our biggest enemies were the Christians, and our biggest friends were the Arabs. Today, it's exactly the opposite. Today, the evangelical Christians are our best friends, and the Arabs are in many cases, our worst enemies, and have waged war on us many, many times. Who knows what could be in the future? Maybe in the future it'll be the opposite again. Maybe the Arabs will make peace with the Jewish people and become our best friends, and who knows what will happen with the Christians. We ultimately cannot depend on anyone except ourselves, and therefore when Jews need help, we can really ultimately just depend on ourselves. If others help us, that's great, but we can't depend on it. We ultimately have to realize Kol Yisrael Arev Mizel Hazeh, every single Jew is responsible for each other. We can depend only on ourselves. And when another Jew is in need, we have to step up and help them as never before. That's what Chabad does. If a person is in need someplace in the world, we always send someone over there to help them. I remember many years ago, I was in Prague with my wife on vacation, and we sat by the bridge overlooking the river, and an elderly couple came up to us and sat down next to us, and they asked us, we are Chabadnikim? And we said, yes, why? And they said, well, they're from Israel, and their son went to Thailand on vacation to go surfing. And he was enjoying a lovely surfing vacation when he decided, if he felt very lonely and he missed being with Jews. So he called up Chabad in Bangkok, and he had made arrangements to go to Bangkok and spend a Shabbos in Bangkok. That Shabbos was the Shabbos that the terrible tidal wave struck Thailand, and so many people were killed. And they told me that if his son was there, he also would have been killed and swept away in that terrible tidal wave. And it was because of Chabad, because of going there for Shabbos and spending a Shabbos there, that it literally saved his life. Whenever a Jew is in need, Chabad is always there to help, as every Jew should be there to help, no matter what, because ultimately we can only count on ourselves, whether it's our charities, whether it's a helping hand, whatever it may be. We can't count on anyone else. If they help us, that's wonderful, but we can't count on it. The Jewish people travel and dwell alone. But are we really alone? No, because God is with us. God has been directing our steps as He has throughout the ages, and therefore we are not alone, because Hashem Himself, God, is there to help us, to protect us, and to be with us, and to comfort us. So indeed, we are indeed a nation that is really not alone, ultimately. This coming Wednesday night, as I said, is Tisha B'Av. The fast begins at 10 minutes before 8 on Wednesday night, and it finishes after the stars come out on Thursday night. Check your local calendar for the exact times for that. It should be also approximately 7:45 on Thursday night. We will be reading the book of Eicha in the synagogue on Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Services Mincha is at 7:40. Man Marav and Eicha is at 8 o'clock. We will also be covering Eicha by Zoom. So we'll be sending you the link for that. So if you don't feel comfortable coming to the synagogue, even though it is going to be outside, masks are required, social distancing will be observed, and no children under the age of 12 will be permitted to come. But if you'd like to hear Eicha and participate online through Zoom, that would also be fine. We'll be taking care of that and doing that as well. Services on Thursday will be at 6:30 in the morning and later in the afternoon at 7:20. Also on Thursday, we will be showing a special video presentation at 5 o'clock, also on Zoom, featuring several very prominent people who experienced terrible tragedies in their life, including the former Chief Rabbi of Israel, current Chief Rabbi of Tel Aviv, Rabbi Yisrael Merlau, who went through the Holocaust, Rabbi Nissan Mangel, who also was in Auschwitz, Daniel Pearl and his wife, whose son, Judah Pearl, whose son Daniel Pearl was tragically killed by terrorists in Pakistan many years ago, and Sherry Mandel, whose son Kobe was also murdered by terrorists. They will be coming on and explaining their circumstances and how they got through it. And then there will be a panel discussion of some of our local rabbis here in San Diego who will be fielding questions for them at that time as well. So this will be held on Thursday at 5 o'clock. You'll have an opportunity of asking the local rabbis, questions, and hopefully they'll have some good answers for you. And that'll be at 5 o'clock on Thursday. So we hope you'll join us for this very moving video presentation on Thursday and participate in all of the observances of Tisha B'Av coming up this week. And we should hope, God willing, that this should be the last Tisha B'Av in exile. In fact, Hashem should give us Mashiach before Tisha B'Av. As we are told, Mashiach is supposed to be born or conceived on Tisha B'Av. Let it happen speedily in our day. Amen. Amen.